Mass shootings, like the recent Nashville school shooting, leave us all, liberal, conservative, Republican, and Democrat, appalled and disgusted at the carnage. Some people want to place the blame for this horror on things like high-capacity magazines or semi-automatic rifles, because we want to blame anything that the government can control. We need a scapegoat. This is what people look for. Something or anything that we can do to change it. But what we really want to ban is violence, murder, and insanity. But we don't talk about that, though, because deep in our hearts, each of us knows that violence, murder, and insanity are built into the human condition, and likely always will be. You know, there are two kinds of animals in this world: predators and prey. No one watches a leopard chase down a gazelle and denies the gazelle's right to use its hooves and horns to defend itself from the predator. But there are politicians in office right now, and American citizens that vote those politicians into office, who would deny that same right of self-defense to other human beings. Such people seem to think that the way to stop the leopard is to cut the horns off of the gazelle, and that by somehow making it easier for the predator will simply go away. My friends, this is insane. When you make it easier for the predator, you get more predators until the predators make the prey that they're hunting extinct. So let's start with the so-called assault rifles, more properly known as semi-automatic rifles. Now, according to the FBI, specifically the FBI's expanded homicide data table collected by the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program in the United States of America during 2019, which is the most recent year that this data was collected, the total firearm murders came to 10,258. During that time, the total murders committed by rifles, all rifles, not just semi-automatic rifles, was 364. Only 3.5% of all murders committed with firearms, or 2.6% of all murders. Hammers and clubs murdered 397, or 2.8% of all murders. Hands and feet murdered 597 people, or 4.2%. Almost double that of all rifles. And knives murder 10.5%, which is nearly 5 times the amount of murders by all rifles combined. Also, preventable medical errors in the United States kill between 44,000 and 98,000 people per year. Looking at these stats pessimistically, meaning the stat being 98,000 in any given year, medical malpractice kills more than 12 times as many people each year. That's more than 300 times all rifles, not just the so-called assault rifles. And yet, no one talks about limits on hammers, or knives, or doctors, or hospitals. And nobody does that because the good we perceive from hammers, knives, doctors, or hospitals far outweigh their perceived harm. And yet, studies show, facts, not perception, facts, studies show that firearms prevent anywhere from 800,000 to 2 million of violent crimes every year. The lowest estimate is that 100 times more violent crimes were prevented with firearms than the total murders committed with firearms. Again, 100 times as many violent crimes prevented than violent crimes committed with firearms. In October of 2007, there's a very good example of this. That being, Amanda Collins was walking to her car after a night class at the University of Nevada in Reno. Amanda had a conceal and carry permit for her 9mm Glock that she carried for self-defense. Unfortunately for Amanda, though, UNR is, like most college campuses, a gun-free zone. So like the law-abiding citizen that she is, she did not have her gun with her in this gun-free zone when she was attacked by James Bila. Bila raped her on the UNR campus, less than 300 yards away from the campus police office. He then simply walked away, and a few months later, this human predator went on to murder 19-year-old Breonna Dennison. Amanda Collins went on to say, quote, "I know, having been the first victim, that Breonna Dennison would still be alive had I been able to defend myself that night," unquote. So, the point being is this: guns defend people way more than they're used to harm. So I run for office because of the negligence and ignorance of our politicians. Given I get that position or not, I'm still going to be insistent on pressuring the Attorney General to aggressively challenge any gun control laws that violate Amanda Collins' right not to be raped and Breonna Dennison's right not to be murdered. Because you are not forced to abandon your First Amendment right when you enter Los Angeles or New York, or your Fifth Amendment rights when you walk into a college campus. Therefore, I'm also insistent on pressuring the goddamn President of the United States to veto on the spot any and all attempts to destroy the Bill of Rights or Constitution of the United States of America, because when it's all said and done, the Second Amendment of the Constitution is not there to protect us from criminals, and the people calling for gun control know this. That's why they want gun control instead of crime control. They want laws that at the stroke of a pen turn law-abiding citizens into criminals. It's that simple. The Second Amendment is there to protect the American people from tyranny. The Second Amendment is there to protect the American people from politicians and police. The Second Amendment is there to protect the American people from the government. Now, some politicians claim America deserves a vote on this issue. Okay, let's have a vote. Those of you who are advocating infringement on the right of the people to keep and bear arms need to go out there to the American people with the 28th Amendment, which would simply read, the Second Amendment to the Constitution is hereby repealed. That would, for the first time, give the government the legal authority to do what you have been doing, what you are trying to do now, in direct violation of your oath of office to defend the entire Constitution of the United States, not just the parts you happen to approve of. So go ahead, go to the American people and tell them that ultimate power is no longer to be vested in the people who can't be trusted with that power. You guys can't have that. According to you, tell them only the government can have that power now. Take away your freedoms for your security. Yeah, you go out there and try to convince the people that, we need to get this amendment passed because this agrees with my opinion of them, of the people, versus their opinion of you. I dare you. Convince the people that you need to get this amendment passed to agree with your opinion of them versus their opinion of you. Do it. I dare you, because you want to know what happened in history? History repeats itself. I'll give you a few examples. 12 million unarmed men, women, and children were unable to resist being murdered by their own National Socialist government in Nazi Germany. Perhaps 50 million unarmed men, women, and children were murdered by their own Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. 50 million Chinese murdered by their own government under Mao, who also disarmed his people, and in Cuba, and in Vietnam, and in the killing fields of Cambodia. Now you say that can't happen here? We're protected? By what? The Constitution? That politicians both left and right are in the process of destroying? They are in direct violation of their oath of office by so much as introducing this legislation, let alone passing it, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, meaning supreme, top dog, nothing can go over it. You have the right to keep and bear arms unless you're a felon. Oh, that's above it. Yeah, get rid of it. Unconstitutional. Can't have this kind of gun. Nope, that's above the supreme law. There's no exceptions. All gun laws are infringements. Put simply, they are. History shows us that previous world, and especially United States politicians, sat back and watched as millions of people were murdered by their own governments, and every single one of those men, women, and children were real, precious, and irreplaceable as the people at the Nashville school shooting. And I tell you here and now that I will be damned if I let that happen to the American people. So I'm running for office once again, to be a civil servant, to protect you, your life, and the people you love, your families. I will give you the right to do those things to the best of my ability. Because I want to be a civil servant and not play politics with people's lives for personal gain. You deserve the right not to be raped. You deserve the right not to die. And if you agree with those two sentiments I just told you, voting for me is your best option. Sharing this video is your best option. Saying things that I said in this video by calling your representatives is your best option. And conducting civil disobedience armed with guns that are loaded peacefully outside of government facilities is your best option, with a clear message that you want things to change for the better, that you want the ability to have guns. Because voting really doesn't work. I use that for the sake of the argument. It doesn't change anything. Unfortunately, peaceful civil disobedience, like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Rosa Parks, don't work anymore because you get shot with rubber bullets and tear gas. But when you have guns and a lot of people with a very clear message and you're peaceful, they don't get assaulted. They don't get black bagged by police. You know what happens? What happened in Richmond, Virginia? Yeah, what happens is you get what you want. Don't be violent. Be peaceful. But make your message clear. It's an oxymoron for me to say to vote for me. Hunter Froelich for the Minnesota House of Representatives. It is an oxymoron. I understand that when I say voting doesn't work. But I can still get in that position of power, and I guarantee you if I do, you will have rights. You will have more freedoms. And America will return to the land of the free, at least in Minnesota. If I need to be a career politician, which I hate, I'll do it. I want to end this on a line I put in a song called Validated, because I'm also a rapper. I'm a raptivist, so to speak. The line goes, A. Hillary's bill's worse than Cosby, raping kids in fuck Benghazi.